Chapter 1. The Adventure Begins. The sun hung low on the horizon as Sarah and her friends, Mike, Emily, and Ben, drove through dense woods toward their camping destination at Whispering Pines. They had been planning this trip for months, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of city life and embrace the tranquility of the wilderness. Emily, an avid nature enthusiast, had stumbled upon the legend of Whispering Pines, a secluded camping site deep in the heart of the forest. The campsite was renowned for its pristine beauty, pristine lake, and rumored to have mystical qualities. They were drawn to the idea of disconnecting from the world and experiencing something extraordinary. As they arrived at the campsite, the friends were captivated by the serene beauty that surrounded them. Tall pines whispered secrets in the breeze, and the crystal-clear lake shimmered under the fading daylight. Mike, the self-proclaimed adventurer, set up their tents near the shore while Emily and Ben gathered firewood. Sarah, the skeptic of the group, observed everything with a mix of fascination and unease. She had heard unsettling rumors about Whispering Pines, stories whispered among the locals about eerie happenings in the area. As night fell, they huddled around the campfire, their laughter and chatter filling the air. The stars glittered above, and a full moon cast an ethereal glow on the landscape. "Let's tell ghost stories," Emily suggested, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Sarah hesitated but finally agreed, eager to blend in with the group's enthusiasm. They took turns sharing spooky tales, each story trying to outdo the previous one. Little did they know, their camping trip would soon take a chilling turn. Chapter 2. The Legend of Whispering Pines. As the fire crackled and the wind whispered through the trees, Emily leaned forward, her voice hushed. "Have you ever heard the legend of Whispering Pines?" she asked. The group fell silent, intrigued by Emily's question. "Whispering Pines has a dark history," Emily began. "Long ago, this forest was home to a mysterious tribe. They believed that the trees possessed ancient spirits that whispered secrets to those who listened. But as the tribe's power grew, so did their greed. They began performing dark rituals, sacrificing animals and even their own people to gain control over the forest spirits." Sarah shifted uncomfortably on her log. "This is just a legend, right?" Emily continued. "One night, the spirits of the forest grew angry and unleashed a curse upon the tribe. The very trees they had worshipped turned against them, their whispers turning into haunting cries. The tribe disappeared into the woods, never to be seen again. They say that if you listen closely, you can still hear their tormented spirits whispering among the pines." Mike chuckled. "Spooky story, Em, but we're not kids anymore. Ghosts and curses? Come on." Emily smiled, unfazed by Mike's skepticism. "Well, they also say that anyone who camps at Whispering Pines may encounter those lost souls." As the night wore on, the campfire dwindled, and they decided to retire to their tents. The eerie tale lingered in the air like a haunting melody, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something inexplicable lay hidden in the forest. Chapter 3. The Whispering Woods. In the depths of the night, Sarah awoke to the faintest of sounds. It was a soft, whispering voice, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. She sat up in her sleeping bag, her heart pounding. "Who's there?" she called out in a trembling voice. No one answered, and the forest was silent except for the eerie whispering. Sarah unzipped her tent and peered outside, but all she saw were the shadows of the towering pines. She couldn't discern the source of the whispering. "Guys, wake up!" she hissed, shaking Emily, who was sleeping next to her. Emily groggily sat up, rubbing her eyes. "What's going on?" Sarah pointed toward the woods. "Listen. Can you hear that?" As Emily strained her ears, she too heard the haunting whispers. Mike and Ben were awakened by their hushed conversation. "What's happening?" Ben asked. Mike, the least affected by the unsettling sounds, grumbled. "Probably just the wind." But as they all listened intently, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. It was as if the forest itself was trying to communicate with them. Sarah shivered. "We need to find out what's causing this." Reluctantly, the group emerged from their tents and ventured into the woods, following the eerie sounds. The whispers seemed to lead them deeper into the forest, where the darkness closed in around them like a suffocating embrace. Chapter 4: The Lost Tribe. The group walked for what felt like hours, their flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. The whispers grew more pronounced, forming a haunting chorus that sent chills down their spines. "Are we lost?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. Sarah tried to stay calm. "No, we just need to follow the sounds. Maybe there's an explanation for all of this." They reached a clearing, and in the dim light of their flashlights, they saw an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and surrounded by gnarled trees. At the base of the altar were strange, primitive symbols etched into the ground. As they approached, the whispers became more intense, almost frantic. It was as if the forest was trying to convey a message. Sarah bent down to examine the symbols, her heart pounding. "These symbols, they look like the ones from Emily's story," she whispered. Emily's eyes widened in realization. This must be where the tribe performed their dark rituals. Suddenly, the ground beneath the altar began to tremble, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly presence. The group stepped back in terror as the earth seemed to come alive. From the ground emerged spectral figures, their bodies translucent and flickering like candle flames. The lost tribe had returned from the depths of the forest, their eyes filled with a haunting sadness. The whispers now coalesced into a mournful chorus, the tribe's voices blending with the rustling leaves and the howling wind. Sarah, Emily, Mike, and Ben were enveloped in a spectral dance, unable to break free from the eerie trance. Chapter 5: The Curse Unleashed. The lost tribe of Whispering Pines circled the intruders, their ghostly forms swaying in a macabre rhythm. They whispered in a long-forgotten language, their words carrying the weight of centuries. Sarah tried to speak, to ask them what they wanted, but her voice was drowned out by the mournful chorus. The tribe's eyes locked onto hers, and she felt a deep sadness wash over her, as if she could sense their torment and regret. The whispers grew more frenzied, and Sarah felt herself losing control of her body. She was drawn toward the stone altar, her limbs moving of their own accord. Emily, Mike, and Ben were similarly entranced, unable to resist the supernatural force that held them captive. As they reached the altar, the ground trembled once more, and a dark, swirling vortex appeared at its center. It was a portal to another realm, a gateway to the spirit world. The lost tribe beckoned them forward, their ghostly hands outstretched. Sarah's mind raced with fear and confusion, but she had no choice but to step into the swirling abyss, followed by her friends. As they crossed the threshold, they felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if they had entered a realm of eternal darkness. Chapter 6: The Realm of Shadows. The vortex transported them to a desolate landscape shrouded in perpetual twilight. Shadowy figures flitted in and out of existence, their wails echoing through the eerie silence. Sarah, Emily, Mike, and Ben were no longer in control of their own bodies. They were mere observers in this nightmarish realm, their senses overwhelmed by the oppressive darkness that surrounded them. The lost tribe of Whispering Pines materialized before them, their spectral forms more vivid and sorrowful than ever. They reached out to the intruders, their touch sending shivers down their spines. Sarah tried to speak, to plead with the tribe to release them, but her words were drowned out by the mournful chorus of the spirits. It was as if the forest itself had come alive, its ancient secrets and tormented souls seeking retribution. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a towering and malevolent presence. It was the spirit of the tribe's leader, a figure of immense power and darkness. He raised his hands, and the very ground beneath the intruders began to shift and contort. Emily, Mike, and Ben cried out in terror as the ground swallowed them, pulling them into the depths of the realm of shadows. Sarah was left alone, her friends disappearing into the abyss before her eyes. The leader of the lost tribe approached Sarah, his eyes filled with a haunting sadness. He whispered something in the ancient language, and Sarah felt a strange sensation wash over her. It was as if a part of her soul had been torn away, replaced by a deep sorrow that she could not comprehend. Chapter 7: The Return to Reality. Sarah awoke with a start, her heart pounding, and found herself lying on the forest floor. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm and welcoming light over the landscape. She was back at their campsite, surrounded by the familiar pines. Tears filled her eyes as the memories of the night's horrors flooded back. She realized that her friends were gone, lost to the realm of shadows. The lost tribe had exacted their revenge, and Sarah had been spared, left to bear the burden of their curse. She knew that she could never return to Whispering Pines, that the forest was now tainted by the darkness that had consumed her friends. With a heavy heart, she gathered her belongings and made her way back to civilization. No one would ever believe her tale, and she could never forget the haunting whispers of the forest or the mournful chorus of the lost tribe. The legend of Whispering Pines would continue to be whispered among the locals, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurked in the heart of the wilderness. But for Sarah, it was a nightmare that would haunt her for the rest of her life, a chilling reminder of the darkness that could consume even the bravest of souls in the depths of the unknown.